At 9:06 a.m. on September 11, 2001, the Federal Aviation Administration issued the first national ground stop in U.S. history, prohibiting departures for all civilian aircraft. As the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center burned in New York, the suicide attacks on American soil continued. A third hijacked airliner hit the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. And with that, the FAA's directions changed. A full shutdown of U.S. airspace was ordered, and all aircraft were instructed to land at the nearest airport as soon as possible. In total, over 4,000 flights were diverted and grounded over the next few hours. While these tragic events had a direct impact on airline passengers, military personnel, first responders, and the unfortunate victims of the attacks, there was also some unexpected repercussions. In this video, we're going to look at how the events of 9/11 created a unique challenge for medical personnel in Florida, which found themselves in a situation where they needed a plane on the only day in history when no plane was allowed to fly. While the world was falling apart on the morning of Tuesday, September 11th, in southern Florida, Lawrence Van Sertima was going about his business unaware. In his 40 years of handling venomous snakes, he had never been bitten even once. But that was about to change.
Unfortunately, the second lid was not properly clipped. So as I pushed the snake in from one end, he raised the back of the box and he was coming out of the box at the other end. I was distracted by this and turned aside to try and push that end back in and lock the box. That was all it took for him to get a mouthful of my finger. I was pretty au fait with what could happen, and I was taking the necessary steps. And I kept squeezing it to keep it bleeding. Then I started feeling cold. The kind of cold that is sort of an internal thing. Cold, and then it got dark and I just keeled over and fell on the floor.
Lawrence was rushed to the Baptist Hospital in Miami and immediately given 5 vials of polyvalent antivenin. Within the next hour, an additional 2 vials were driven down from Central Florida to be administered as well. But right from the start, Lawrence had 2 things working against him. He had been bitten by not only one of the most venomous snakes in the world, but also the rarest. Native to the black soil plains of Australia, the inland taipan has enough lethality in one bite to kill 100 humans. Now, even though a specific taipan antivenom had been developed, this was not a common enough snake in North America for hospitals to carry stock. The polyvalent antivenin used by the Miami hospital was considered to be broad spectrum, made of several types of venom. But in this situation, all it was able to do was buy the medical staff some time. Lawrence was drifting in and out of consciousness while bleeding from the eyes, ears, and mouth. If they weren't able to get taipan-specific antivenom soon, full organ failure would set in and there would be no coming back. Calls went out across the country, with the first positive response coming from New York City. Yeah, not very helpful. Fortunately, the San Diego Zoo also had a supply, but the burning question was how to get it to Florida. It was the evening of September 11th, 2001, and the entire continent was grounded. The 2,600-mile trip by road would take at least 2 full days, and by then, Lawrence Van Sertima would be long dead. Through the night, Miami medical staff worked their way up the chain of command to FAA headquarters in Washington. After explaining the situation and lack of other options, permission was finally given. At 9 a.m. on Wednesday, September 12th, a Learjet took off from San Diego with 5 vials of the taipan antivenom on board. Escorted by 2 F-16s, the aircraft made the 4-hour journey across the country. Later, they would be told that that plane was the only non-military flight over North America that day. After receiving the monovalent serum, the effects of the deadly taipan bite slowly began to subside. It was then that Lawrence found out that not only did he have the misfortune of being bitten by one of the most rare and deadly snakes in the world, it had also happened at the exact same time that all air traffic in North America was being grounded. Forever grateful for the work and perseverance that allowed this historic, life-saving flight to happen, Lawrence is still a little disappointed that this one instance ended up being his legacy.
I have gotten no recognition or acknowledgement or anything for those thousands of good handlings. Yet I'm famous because I screwed up once.
Now, while I was researching the incredible tale of the only civilian flight after 9/11, I also came across a few other interesting medical stories that I wanted to share. In April 2016, a critically ill patient in the Norwegian town of Bodo was in dire need of a special type of life support. ECMO continuously pumps blood out of your body and then sends it through devices that add oxygen and remove carbon dioxide. Unfortunately, the nearest ECMO machine was a 10-hour drive away, a wait that the patient would not live through. As a last resort, doctors decided to contact the Norwegian Air Force, which fortunately already had 2 F-16s scheduled to fly to Bodo that day. One of them was also equipped with a cargo pod, making the transport of the device quick and easy. 40 minutes after the call was made, the ECMO was on the ground in Bodo, and the patient's life was saved. In January 1982, a 3-year-old girl in Italy became seriously ill, and doctors quickly concluded that the only hope for her was an experimental antiviral drug over 1,500 kilometers away in Germany. To make matters worse, Germany was under the effects of a vicious ice storm that had shut everything down. But when called for help, the Germans weren't going to use the weather as an excuse. After picking up the medicine, Munich police make the 130-kilometer journey over ice-covered roads to the Memmingen airbase. There, a narrow strip of the runway is de-iced, and the medicine is given to a pilot sitting in an already running Luftwaffe F-104 Starfighter. As the flight, dubbed Rescue 1, takes to the sky, behind the scenes political arrangements are made for clearance to fly over Austria. But at the destination airport in Italy, more challenges await. Flood-making rains have damaged the electrical systems, and there is no lights on the runway. Ground crews race to gather as many vehicles as they can to illuminate the tarmac as Rescue 1 broke through the storm for a perfect touchdown. Through the actions of hundreds of people and a 3 a.m. delivery via foreign fighter plane, the young girl was able to get the needed medicine and made a full recovery. Now, this last one isn't about a plane, but I thought it was a pretty cool story to include. In 2020, Italian state police posted a video to Twitter showing them using a Lamborghini Huracan to transport a donor kidney 300 miles in just 2 hours to a needy patient. Apparently, this isn't even an uncommon practice for them, as not every hospital has areas that are suitable for helicopters to be used. And with an average speed of 145 miles per hour, the Lambo isn't even really that much slower than an aerial delivery. Thank you for watching another episode of That Happened. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of my other content, like this story about the Pepsi Concorde.